All right. Well, welcome to week 3 of the DevOps Online Summit coaching program. We have with us Kurt Andersen from Blameless. Kurt, if you want, just kind of maybe give a quick synopsis. I know you've been on the summit. We've talked to you a couple times, but just so people know about you and about Blameless.
Sure. I am kind of the head of strategy for Blameless. We are focused on building an end-to-end SRE platform, and delighted to talk about that, but I think you probably want to talk about other things. Previously, I was an SRE with LinkedIn and have done reliability engineering for other organizations prior to the term becoming more widespread. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, Fee, do you have any questions for Kurt or any topics you wanted to bring up?
Nope, not really.
Yeah. Because Kurt, you do a lot of work. So talk to us a little bit about, I know you had mentioned you do strategy. So, and you've been in the industry for a while. You've kind of seen the SRE role kind of evolve. So talk to us a little bit about, how that's gone through your career and what things maybe we should, because I guess Fee, do you do SRE or are you more of a DevOps role or just to kind of?
I'm in the DevOps roles. So I'm just curious, Kurt, what the difference between SRE and DevOps? And I think this link back into our conversation last week, Tom, with Andy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's certainly a loaded area. So I'm glad to see you jump right into the meat of things. It's mostly a matter of emphasis. I'd say the two constructs are compatible, but they approach the space from different sides, I'll say. So DevOps tends to approach things from the developer's side, moving toward production. SRE starts with the customer that's using the product, the platform, the site, whatever it is, and moves back through production and says, what do we need to do in order to make that customer experience awesome? And we kind of roll that up into reliable, but that's an oversimplification. Obviously, they mesh in the middle because you can't do everybody's part of the story. As we say at Blameless, reliability is a team sport. You need all people pulling their weight to get it over the finish line and give that awesome experience to the customer.
So what your one or two things that you do day to day as part of the SRE roles?
Well, as much as I'd like it to be otherwise, responding to incidents is a pretty common aspect. But then to counterbalance that, it's a matter of thinking about how your system is used by the customer, how it serves the customer, and how to architect it in a way to mitigate problems. So ideally, you structure your system so that you have as few incidents as possible, while at the same time recognizing that incidents are inevitable, and so you want to have the skills in place to respond to incidents quickly and effectively. My CEO was showing a GIF earlier today about the 5-second pit stop. I don't know if you've seen it, but it is truly amazing how this group of 20-ish people swarm the Formula One car, and in 5 seconds they've changed all 4 tires, refueled it, and it's out of the pit. That's the kind of solving incidents quickly and efficiently. It takes a lot of coordination, a lot of practice for all those people to get everything just dialed into the fraction of a second. We're not talking about exactly the same thing in IT incidents, but it's still having people have the facility with the tools with each other, with a collaborative, psychologically safe environment where you can respond to the incidents that are going to happen, but at the same time, you try to do everything you can to prevent them in the first place by well architecting your systems.
Yeah. So you just talk about tools, right? So what kind of tool that help the SRE in Blameless to restore this like a few seconds to resolve the incident?
Well, in Blameless, what we have chosen to do is focus on the response orchestration, is what we call it. So a lot of people use Slack. So we started with Slack as a chat bot because a lot of people just spend their days in Slack or email. But we focused on the chat bot as the place where you can kick off the incident, you can declare the incident, and then you can coordinate the work of all the responders. We build in the incident command framework as it's been sort of adapted into the IT space from emergency response. So you've got an incident commander who helps direct the crew, and then you can build out greater or lesser complexity depending on the magnitude of the incident, where you can dispatch individual teams into their own avenues of work to investigate and remediate, or you can just have a simple 3 people together and address the issue and be done with it. And then capture all of that as it goes through the process of resolution so that it feeds forward into your retrospective process rather than having to go back and piecemeal it and cut and paste it from a bunch of different places to build your timeline and talk about what you can learn from the process that you went through. So that's the starting point, tooling wise, of what Blameless did. And then what we've done just recently, the beginning of this month. Oh, that was just last week. We GA'd our SLO product. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
No, I guess it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we announced the GA of our SLO product. For SLOs start with the user journeys, what somebody's trying to do on your product, maybe buy a toy for their cat or something like that, or buy toilet paper if it's just in a pandemic, right? And you identify indicators that say whether or not they did that successfully. Ultimately, you want your indicator to strongly correlate with the customer's happy, the customer's not happy. And then you can, based on that indicator, you can say, okay, what fraction of the time are our customers happy? And then you measure that, you observe what's going on, and you look for ways to improve the happiness score to an appropriate level of reliability, because 100% isn't the right answer. It's going to cost you an infinite amount of money to have 100% reliability. So you want to balance the trade-offs of what is it going to cost to achieve a certain level of reliability.
Got you. Yeah. So sort of, well, I lie that I don't have SRE. So we do have Slack channels, and we do have the what we call production support and admin support. And we do leverage Slack as well. And Slack is our main focus on everything, right? If customer report like a problem, it's going to Slack. And we love Slack so much that because like 6 months from now, if there's a problem and then somebody said, oh, I think this happened before, so we can just go back to the Slack and here we go, the whole communication channel is there, and then we can so that's nice.
Yeah. So, and then there's other tools. I mean, while we're trying to be an SRE platform, we're not trying to replace everybody's monitoring tools, their observability tools, their ticketing tools, but we want to integrate. So we integrate with Jira, or we integrate with monitoring tools for feeding some of the measures that you use in your SLIs, come from existing monitoring tools. We're just trying to put it into the context of understanding the system, and then it bubbles up. You can do it on demand or build charts of different areas of your product and how is the reliability looking for those areas. You can go to whatever level of administrative hierarchy you need to for their point of view that they care about.
So as far as debugging issue on the production environment, do you have any advice for us at the SRE people?
Advice
like
on
tool wise and techniques and stuff like that.
use feature flags.
I do. It's funny that you asking. Yeah, we do have feature flags, and then part of the DevOps side, we continue the deliveries feature and into production, and then if it's not ready, the flag is turned it off, and then whenever it's ready, we turn the flag on.
Yeah. I think honestly, I mean the good practices, good DevOps practices really help. So if you've got a strong deployment pipeline where you can deploy and undeploy or roll back, or you do blue-green deployments, different strategies apply to accomplish the same idea that if you put something out there that's bad, you want to minimize the time period that it's going to affect people. So feature flags do that. Deployment agility, I'll call it that, does that. And then good monitoring. I mean, make it easy for your developers to instrument their code, to stream the metrics to the right place without them having to think about it every time. It's instrumented code should be something that developers don't have to think about, except to the degree of, hey, I'm doing something unique and how do I effectively expose that? But once they decide the measure that they want to kick out or the logs that they want to kick out, use structured logs. That's another big thing if you can. And then collect that data. That can be different teams do that in different organizations. But those are the kinds of things that I think are kind of underlying good practices and good skills that help everybody.
So we do have the blue-green deployment. So we on AWS, by the way. So we use code build and code deploy. And then the pipeline, we use code pipelines, and we use fully CI/CD. So when the pipeline is done, that's the code that gets deployed into production right away.
But how quickly can you roll it back if it's bad?
If it's bad, we can roll a few things that we can do. So we have 4 or 5 type of apps that we leverage, right? So AWS Lambda rollback mean that there's versioning system for Lambda, but rollback we confident on the build, so we just build with the previous version, rebuild with the previous version. For the application that running on an EC2 instance, rollback mean that I redeploy the previous code deploy. And then we have a whole bunch of other node module and stuff like that. It's just redeploy, rebuild to rollback. So really rollback, we're not gonna have a very strict rollback into previous version. We just move forward.
Okay. So how long does it take though? I was reading a Twitter thread the other day that was making the argument that you should strive for strictly less than 15 minutes from code commit to production, and ideally more like 10 or less.
Well, we're shooting for that 15 minutes, but right now my pipeline, the whole pipe take about 2 hours. And then we tried because when the project just started, right? So of course you have a few tests than when the project more mature. So we are currently looking to a tool called Launchable. So that Launchable is allow you because what we identify is most of the time when your end-to-end test run, most of the time like 80% or 85% of them like wasted. Right, you can one line of code and then you run the full suite of tests, and it's all of the 85-90% of the tests are wasted. Right.
Right.
So Launchable allows it's running AI on your previous test result, and then suggest that you can only one line of code. Then this is like 10% of the test that you can run to be confident that your code will work. Right, so we plan to use that. But right now, our pipeline from the time that the PR get merged into GitHub until when it deploy into production, it's about 2 hours.
Okay. I hadn't heard of it about Launchable before. That's a good one. I'll have to look into that.
But yeah. We have a long talk with this, and Tom probably remember the guy who create Launchable is also the same guy who creates Jenkins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as far as the tool that you use for monitoring and instrumented the code, so we talked about this like last time with like Dynatrace and then Datadog, Tom. So I wonder, Kurt, you use any other tool that's different?
For monitoring, well, I mean the big ones, at least the ones that we integrate out of the box with, are New Relic, Datadog.
Okay.
There's some older enterprise companies or more established enterprise companies that might use something like App Dynamics. Which they have their own quirks. I'll say each of those have their own quirks.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's kind of the newer observability platform folks like Lightstep that just got acquired by ServiceNow, and Honeycomb, and there's Open Telemetry is the framework, but there's another open source solution.
It's
and I can't remember the name.
Yeah, Open Telemetry is work with the whole ecosystem with Grafana and
yeah, Open Telemetry is sort of the communications protocol.
Yep.
But there's another like competitor to Lightstep, but it's an open source solution, and I can't remember the name of it right now.
I see.
So
okay. Yeah, so this forum is really good. We exchange and tool that we're using. Yeah, so I learned a lot from this.
I'm glad. So
I want to come back there, Kurt. You kind of started off. I know Fee started us off with a tough question, talking about SRE and DevOps and how they're different. As you kind of look at those roles, and I appreciate kind of how you kind of start it with bringing the DevOps from the developer side, and the SREs looking at more from the kind of the customer experience, the customer journey. Is there a different mindset, or I would seem like there would probably be a different mindset for each, and then probably some different skills as we look at those, like if we compare those two roles, or maybe I just wanted to ask you that and see what you think, or maybe there's more overlap than I'm anticipating.
Well, I think it. Trying to figure out the right way to phrase this.
I hope I'm not trying to get you in trouble, Kurt.
No, that's okay. It depends on how narrow or broad your perspective is, or how short or long term your perspective is, depending on how you want to phrase it.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at some of the work, for instance, like Gene Kim promotes around DevOps and value streams, again, they're coming from the developer side, and looking at how do you get value to the customer in that directional sense. They're concerned with more than just good software development lifecycle practices, more than just continuous integration and delivery practices, but don't necessarily emphasize a lot on the getting the value into the hands of the customer. But they do have the perspective that that's important. But a lot of DevOps practitioners are concerned with getting the code from the developer into production. And basically they focus on the CI/CD pipelines, and they kind of bound themselves in that space. SREs, again, can tend to be, sometimes they'll get into this, I call it an anti-pattern, but they can tend to get into a guardians of production mindset, where it's like the customer is king, and we dare not interrupt anything for the customer. It tends to be a little bit more rare, but that could simply be because SRE hasn't been around for a long time. And it's, again, it depends on the breadth of perspective, that if they're looking at baking reliability in from the point in time when the product is conceived and architected, and they're working with the development team all through the development cycle, then they're less likely to be in this sort of production mine, you bad mindset.
Yeah, I can see that, how those anti-patterns can kind of play out as we kind of change where our focus is.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, I guess that's how I'd view it. I mean, yes, there's some different perspectives. I do think SREs tend to be system thinking. The stronger SREs tend to be more system-wide thinkers. At the same time, they can dive deep, and they tend to be really good at troubleshooting, which is because they tend to be generalists also. It makes it really hard to write a job description. Hey, I want an awesome troubleshooter who's a generalist and can think in system terms. Yeah. It's like, that doesn't make a compelling job description. And how do you evaluate people for something like that even?
Right.
So, and there's not a lot of great training in the field, and whether it's formal or informal education. It's just not. When I was involved with the intern program, signing up interns, I guess, hiring them for the season at LinkedIn, we had some challenges trying to craft the job descriptions in a way that made sense, and that we could find the people who actually would enjoy and excel in the SRE field. It was easier to write a software developer intern sort of description.
Yeah.
Yep. Agree. Yeah. So it's hard when you in the job description you say, okay, I need someone to debug somebody else programs, right?
I read an amazing article some time ago, and I don't remember who it was, but it was this group of people, and all they do is they spend their time refactoring old software programs. And they basically get called in as specialists to say, hey, everybody's left that knew anything about this program. Can you fix it for us? And the people who worked for this company really, really enjoyed doing that. But it's also a pretty specialized skill.
Specialized. Yep. I agree. Yeah. Yep.
Well, one quick last question, I guess. You talked about instrumented code, and we talked a lot about different tools. At a high level, instrumented code, is there some general guidelines, or does it more determined by, we choose tool X, then how we instrument our code is going to be dictated by that tool?
The good thing about the open telemetry spec that's come out is that it's helped to solve some of the narrow focus. Like if you go back to the Zipkin or Jaeger days, what you did for one wouldn't work for the other. And so you really had to decide what your consuming system was before you did the instrumentation. Now with open telemetry, you can pretty much use libraries that are mostly off the shelf, I'll say, to emit the relevant details, and figure out separately the question of how you're going to consume and surface them to people. So I do think it's improved. I think having an open spec, I've been involved with the IETF and open standards for a long time. OpenTelemetry is not an IETF spec. I will say that much.
Okay.
But I do believe strongly in the value of having common protocols because they enhance interoperability.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, I really appreciate you sharing a little of your time and kind of shedding some light on some of these questions that Fee and I had, and appreciate you joining us again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Nice chatting with you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Bye,
All
guys.
right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.